Hello, hello, everybody. I'm just getting everything put into place. All right, let's plug in our phones so we don't lose a charge. If you are stopping by, drop a quick comment just to say hello. And we'll be underway shortly. All right. Make sure everything is nice and even. Let's move this around. All right. I think we're good. All right, if y'all are here with me, just drop a quick comment to say hello. We got Patsy and Bo and Diana. Hello, hello, everybody. I hope everyone's having a great Saturday night. Doing pretty good with this, I think. I always fiddle-faddle with my, with my camera quite a bit, because I'm never, like, fully happy with how I have it, you know? But I think we're just about where I want it to be. All right, so what we're going to go ahead and do tonight, I am going to be using one of my most used during a Facebook Live's stamp set, and that is I'm Wishing. It's funny because the story behind using this stamp set is the reason that our princess is red is because during one of my very, very first Facebook Lives, back in 2020, I used this stamp set and I decided to stamp out the princess in red ink that did not clean off the stamp very well. So she is just like forever red, and that's okay. She still stamps out okay. But this stamp set has been very, very well loved. I've used it in multiple Facebook Lives. And for this Facebook Live, we're going to focus on the two villains that are included with this stamp set. So what I wanted to show you, I do have one of the villains already colored up. And I don't have all the colors in front of me, but I did save them to my phone so that when I publish my blog post, I will give you all of the colors. I do have we'll call her what? The royal villain, whatever you want to call her. She is already colored up. And this was all Copic markers. And my goal with this is I'm going to make this like a mirror. So I do have a frame for this oval. We're going to add a little bit to it. But that's not out. We're going to also use the older version of the villain. I don't like using some of the words that you would think to use. So we'll just call her like the more aged villain. And we're going to kind of do a card where it's like she's looking into a mirror and this is her reflection. So let's go into a little bit of coloring and let's see. Make sure I'm not missing any comments. No, I think we are all good. All right, so I did want to do something before I hopped into coloring though. I am going to be using this paper from the Day in the Park paper pack. And it says mirror, mirror on it, and it's all of these little images of mirrors and little flourishes. I want to add some sparkle silk to it, but because there's a finish to this paper, it may take a while to dry. So I'm like, let's do this now. Just add a little bit of sparkle. Sparkle silk is like, almost like a watercolor that has sparkle in it that you can splatter onto your project to give it a little bit of glitz. And I like to do it often, especially if something is going to have like a magical effect to it, like this stamp set. So I am going to go ahead, I've got this all sort of reflected out like that with the sparkle silk, and we're going to set this aside to dry. Now we're going to also clean up. And here's my Kindred craft towel. All right. Perfect. It's still a little damp, but it's okay. All right, let's get into some coloring. So, let's see. Just zoom in a little bit. And I'm gonna get my old version of the villain out and let's get into some coloring. So we're gonna go ahead, we're gonna start with some T8. I'm gonna start with her garment. And I'm just gonna lay this out wherever there would be a shadow. So I'm going down what I would call like the back side of her garment. She's already got some creases in her garment as well, which kind of helps lend you to where some shadow goes. Just kind of lay it all out. Just like that. Under her chin. Under her sleeve, and then she's got this little fold on top of her hooded area of her cloak. And I think that's all I'm gonna do for right now. I can always go back and change it if I want to. All right, next let's go in with some T6. Hello, Leanne, thanks for stopping by. And I'm just gonna continue bringing out those shadows. That's just my method of coloring, is to bring out the shadows. Gotta figure out how I want to do her sleeve in a second. All right, just like this. Go around her hand and down her sleeve. And I am gonna add a little bit in the sleeve as well. I'm gonna go around this little bump in her hood. Just kind of bring this down over here. Okay. I think I'm gonna go and bring a little bit out right there. Okay, perfect. Next, let's move on to our third color, which is going to be some T4. And these are actually the same grays that I used for the younger version of the villain. I tried to keep them similar. That way, if you want to use my color combinations, you don't got to reach for too many markers. Just like that. Go down her sleeve. Go around her hand. All right. Just color up the inner portion of her sleeve a little bit. I think get up here. All right. And then we're going to do some T2, which is technically the last of the grays, but y'all know I color up twice, so just to get a nice saturation going. This marker is squeaky, but it should not be running out of ink anytime soon because I'm pretty sure I just refilled it not too long ago. Now, I wanted to color up this image over the younger version, the more royal version, because I do get a handful of requests to color up images that are heavily white or heavily black. And sometimes it's a little difficult to figure out what sort of color palette you want to use. For example, this cloak is traditionally black. So I can totally understand how somebody could approach this image and think to pull dark markers because it's black. You want it to look like it is black. But I always say, whenever you're coloring up an image in whites and blacks, always color your black garments, your black elements lighter than what you would originally anticipate. You can always darken them later. And always color your white elements darker than you'd anticipate. And the reason that I say this, now I'm not saying color and make your black elements look super, super light, almost like they would be white, but you want to be able to capture those shadows and highlights. And the black elements of your coloring are almost entirely shadows, so you want to get those highlights, so that's why you want to color it a little lighter. But with white coloring, when it's a white element, you want to capture those shadows because so much of your image is highlight. So that's why I say color your white elements darker, your black elements lighter. So that's why with this, even though her cloak is black, I'm still using a gray tone that's a T2 for my highlight. That's pretty light, so I hope that makes some sense in terms of when you're pulling for markers. All right, and around this little bump in her hood. All right. Let's do a little up there, just to kind of help round out that hood. Okay. Let's make sure I'm not missing anything. Hello, Gwen, and hello, Flower. Oh, you guys have been dealing with rain. I don't want to brag, but I'm dealing with, sun-wise, some decent weather today. Temperature-wise, not as much. But I am taking a quick jaunt next weekend to some warmer weather just for a couple nights. So I am looking forward to that. We had some travel plans fall through on us. Not our fault. Stuff happens. We had an event get canceled. So we had to reroute our plans, and I'm excited for the new destination. All right. Let's go to some T4. Just kind of go down. This garment is such a prominent portion of this character's coloring. I feel like once I have it done, there's not going to be much left to color. Of course there is, but Bo says, does anyone know of a Copic refill service? I don't know. Yes, Flower, I am going to Florida. I don't know of like an online retailer that offers that. I also used to have a local store. Well, it wasn't local to me, but when we go visit my in-laws, there was a Crafty store near them that I'm so sad it closed. But I don't know why it closed, because it was like they keep on doing retreats and whatnot and little like garage sale things, which is great. I don't live there full time, so I can't often run to these little events, but they used to offer a Copic refill service, and it used to be like $1 per marker, and it was just, you drop it off, and like I think one time I gave them a marker and they were like, oh, we don't have that refill. I should have asked them when they were closing the store, what they were selling their refills for. Alas, I have gone into refilling my own markers. This is looking pretty good. All right. And see, okay, so her garment is done, and you can still see all of the highlights and the shadows. I think this looks really good in terms of such a dark garment. All right, let's see. Let's do some of her hair. Her hair is going to be really simple. She just has white hair. So I'm just going to do some silvery streaks. I'm kind of coloring a little backwards as to how I usually do. I always do skin first, and for whatever reason today, I decided to color the younger version up, garment first. And I'm like, you know what? I can support this today. All right, let's color up that apple. I'll check comments before I color up the apple. Oh, Diana's got a service near her. That's wonderful. Hello, Mary Cruz. What kind of paper are you using? This is Copic Express-It paper. I almost exclusively color Copic Express-It paper. Just because I like how it works. This is R29. And then for my ink, I exclusively, unless I'm going for something different, I use Blackout ink by Ink on 3. oh my gosh, I've been really picky with inks. Like really, really picky with inks. And I wanted to use an ink that gave me nice crisp coverage, that didn't stain my stamps, and that I could, that it would dry really quickly. And I had a real easy time finding other inks that would do 2 of those 3, but not all 3. And this one, this Blackout ink, has really works so well for me. I have no complaints. I always am open to trying new things as well, but sometimes I'm just like, for what purpose if you don't even like it? All right, now for the cover for this apple has this little drippy portion, and we're gonna kind of make it like a like, oh, it's going to have like a blue-green sheen to it, but it's also going to have some earth tones associated as well. So we're going to do, that's some BG32. We're going to do some E53. And then we're going to do some E50. I'll do this twice. I also have to go in and add a little bit of red. But I just wanted to give this like a magical sort of poisoned look. And I thought that there's like a brief moment where these are the colors. I also think it's so interesting that for like a poisoned apple, of course they go with red because apples are red, but like I almost would have went with green because a lot of the times in movies and whatnot, green is typically the indicator of like evil or villains or whatever you want to say, because I think some villains aren't evil, they're just misunderstood or at least started that way. But anyways, it's a red apple. I guess I could have colored it green if I wanted to. All right, now we just have skin left to do and her mouth. So let's do, we're gonna do some E04. Green is a good color flower. As I've gotten older, my favorite color really is like the blue-green family, anything in the blue-green family. It doesn't necessarily have to be like vibrant. I love teals. I love aquas. Anything like that. Sometimes I struggle to find the difference between teal and aqua and turquoise. They're all just so similar to me. I always thought that teals are darker. And I always want to assume that aqua is like the brightest. But I know that's not always the case. She's got some heavy brows, this one. The brow is strong with this one. All right, so now we're gonna go in with some E11. Just kind of start blending those shadows a little bit. Just like that. Just some E21. Perfect. Just some E00. And I'm missing her hands, so I'm gonna have to go back in and do those, but those will just take me a second. Awesome. And then last color for this first round is E000, so 000. Y'all, I have been crafting all day. I got a bunch of projects done today. Yay, of course, always a good thing. But, oh, this is my last card today. This has got to be the last one. Which is fine. I have more to do tomorrow. But it has been a day of crafting. Saturdays for me usually are. That's why a lot of times when I do Facebook Lives, I know I do 2 a month. One is typically always a Saturday. The other one I usually have on a Wednesday. That one can kind of float around, but I always try to do 1 weekday, 1 weekend a month, because I figure that for availability for people, usually at least one of those is going to work. And my Saturday ones aren't typically later. I'd like to do them earlier. This one was not the case. No reason. But I like to do just a bunch of different lives just so people who may not be available for one can watch live on another. Let's make sure I'm not missing comments. Oh, hello, Christian. All right, let's check some comments. Mary Cruz says, is it like a very thick cardstock or a lightweight paper? Mary Cruz, I'm going to say this isn't like thick like a card base. I would say probably closer to between 60 and 80 pound paper. So it's lighter, but it's going to be thicker than like letter paper that you're going to have in your printer. Hello, Christian. And then Amy says that's exactly my favorite as well. Aqua, teal, turquoise, etc. Absolutely. It's all of those. They're all pretty in their own way. Any sort of ocean sea tones, I love it. And hello, Karen. And hello, Kristen. Oh, you'll see them. Some of them you're going to see in a couple days, I promise. Y'all are going to get those notifications that there's a new release event starting, of course. I had a lot of fun with my set this month. How do I put it? I think just naturally we're always inclined to have like favorite sets and whatnot because we all have different interests and whatever. But the set that I'm working with this month is like really kind of special to me. So and I know that some of you are going to love it. I can't give any hints. This is E21. Oh, Mary Cruz, you're so sweet. Thank you. Be sure with paper, I know that the Copic Express It paper, I'm just being honest when I say this, I know it's one of the more pricier papers, so I totally understand if it's something that you may not feel fits your budget, or you have other papers you might be more inclined to trying. I think it's really important when you're getting paper for your alcohol ink coloring, do some research like you're doing right now. And I'm saying proverbial you, not narrowing anybody out, but just always do your research so you're not surprised by the quality when you get it. I know that with Copic marker, alcohol marker coloring, the Nina Classic Crest Solar White in, I believe it's the 80 pound, or I think some people can also do the 110 pound. That's the thicker version. That works nicely. I have an international paper. I forget what it's called. No, it's a hammer mill paper. I don't really use that much. It's like if I ever have to print out digital stamps and I'm afraid my printer might eat up a piece of my Copic paper, I'll sometimes reach for that. But I'm fairly explicitly this Copic Express It paper. All right, R22. Just to add in a little bit of blush. Just like that. Going with some R20. I haven't colored her up in a while. I'm kind of thinking, so, okay, I put in my post yesterday to tease this live. Both the images I'm using can also be found in the Villainous stamp set. And I love that we have a stamp set like that, because some people, maybe you don't love all the other characters, but you have just a hardcore love for villains. I love that we have that set, and I'm almost thinking of doing like a villains series where I kind of craft my way through the Villainous stamp set. But using more so the images from their, I'll call it like their home set, like where they would have originated from. Because, of course, the Villainous set doesn't have any sentiments, so I'm going to have to use other things. But I think that would be fun. That really, for myself, leans into my interest and style of crafting. But I also would want to make sure if I do that, that my projects don't have a tendency to begin to look the same. Since a lot of these do kind of work with the same sort of elements of like dark and wicked and things of that nature. All right. Ooh, she's looking good. So I don't know. Stay tuned. We might have a new series. I always have ideas of things I want to do, and I only do 2 lives a month, so it's like I don't want to be too ambitious. All right, we're going with some RV34. I also did the like choose your own crafty adventures where I would just pull random prompts and be like, all right, this is what we're making. Let's figure it out. And I haven't done one of those in a while, but maybe I need to do one of those and like combine it with the villain theme. I think that could be a lot of fun. Maybe that's what we'll do next month. I don't know. Let me know what you guys' thoughts are. What do you want to see? Because I love hearing what you guys want for Facebook Lives, because even myself, sometimes I'm in a little bit of a rut. And it's nice to have a little bit of guidance for what people may be interested in. And then finish off with some RV10. All right, let me put my markers away. Check some comments, make sure I'm not missing anything. Question, oh wait, Christian's got a question. Let's see. Karen got the Bristol paper. Bo uses the hammer mill. And that's a versatile paper. It's a very smooth paper. Christian says, do the thicker bands on Copics indicate the brush side? Not your tape, but the built-in marker. Okay, so I think what you're talking about, Christian, is how there's like this gray line. And yes, this is where the brush tip always is. The other end is the, what do we call these? I don't know, like the more wider nibs. But so the brush tip or whatever sort of tip you may have on this end, but it's for me, all of mine with the gray band are my brush tips. I hope that's what you were asking and that I helped you out with that answer. Now just bear with me. I'm putting my markers away. I have this new marker holding contraption that I'm using, and I like it, but it only holds a certain number of markers. So sometimes if I'm over 20 markers, it's a little cumbersome. Chisel, thank you, thank you, thank you. Every villain needs some blush. Absolutely. And Diana, I love that you find that the Express It paper is easier for you. I think so too. I know it's expensive in terms of other papers, but I think that if you want your images to turn a certain way, you've got to invest in some higher quality items just to make sure your coloring goes the way that you want. Can you do like a beginner card so I don't have that many supplies? I could do a beginner series of sorts. I could do like a no coloring card. Actually, Merry Christmas, I just did one of my most recent lives. I didn't actually even color anything. I just made backgrounds using some sprays, but there's some great techniques for like inking and whatnot using stencils. But I could do something simple, or ways that you could maybe take an idea and adjust it to what you have. Right. Let's make sure, am I missing any? Master of fussy cut. Oh, you're so sweet, Barbara. Today I broke out my scan and cut. I had a sheet of images that I had colored up, and I was like, you know what? I don't want to cut you all out today. If it was just one or two of you, I could handle it. But I had a lot of crafting to do, and when I scanned it, my scan and cut said, we can cut this out for you in 2 minutes, and I said, have at it. But usually I have trust issues with my scan and cut unless I'm desperate. And now my rule with fussy cutting is get yourself some good detail scissors. Oh my gosh, and with these, the thing about this that you might find crazy, these don't really fit my fingers super well. I have big fingers, and these are kind of smaller holes, but they get the job done so nicely. I'm like, you know what? I'll suffer through it because I can still have a good control with these scissors. I love that they have a non-stick edge because it makes it also easy. I can cut foam tape with these scissors if I wanted to, but all right, there we go. We have her all cut out. Let me see. Got a wet wipe real quick. I hate that noise. But we got it. All right. So we've got our villain all colored up. And I kind of want to walk you all through what we're going to be doing tonight, just to give you an idea. So, oh, that's right. I splattered this. I hope it dried. No, it didn't. Oops. Oh, but you know what? It's kind of just flaking off. That's okay. All right, so rule of thumb, with these papers, with pattern papers, they have a little bit of a coating on them, so you're not always going to be able to splatter things on them. But to my delight, the splattering is coming right off, and it didn't actually harm the paper. Okay, so this is my thought for this card. Now, this is walking you through the process. So I'm doing some layering. This is from my stash. So this is from the Day in the Park paperback. It's got this mirror pattern. This is actually from another Facebook Live. This is when I use it's not the Manor Haunts, it's the supplemental set of the 3 little ghosty friends and their little carriage. I did a Facebook Live with that, and I cut out this square, but I'm going to layer this on top. This is from Gothic Vibes, I believe. So it's going to be 3 layers, all boom, 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 right on top of each other. We're gonna create a little bit of a square scene in the center of the card, and I'm gonna make like a floor and a wall, and then what we're gonna do is we're gonna have our villain in kind of like a frame, and then we're gonna have our little older woman, and then we're gonna have a sentiment and some embellishments. So let's get into some crafting. So let's start with our, well, I mean, we've been crafting this whole time, but all right, let's see. Mary Cruz, we all started somewhere. I remember, here's the funny story. Let's take a side note for a second. You can ask away. There is no such thing as a foolish question. When I started crafting back in 2019, more crafting than I was used to in the past, I couldn't understand how people had pieces of paper that had stitch marks. It just blew my mind. I'm like, how did you do this? And they'd be like, It's a die cut. And I didn't even know what a die cut was. I didn't understand because I was a resident advisor in college and I die cut letters and shapes all the time for bulletin boards. And our die cuts were the ones that were the wooden blocks that had the foam on the bottom and you had to really crank it through and it would cut out a big shape. But they never gave textures. It was always just like a shape. And I'm like, I don't know how you're die cutting that. I bought a leather stitching tool that I could cut shapes out and I could put like a ruler and I could go like do. It didn't look good, but that's how I thought that it would work with stitching. So we all start somewhere. I get it. Just one step at a time. As you see things you may enjoy, start small with buying them. Don't go too overboard and just have fun. Have fun with stuff. Oh, a scan and cut. Yeah, it is very tempting. 101 of those pups. Oh my goodness. It's really nice. All right, let's see. I know, Flower. I know. Back in the day. All right, I gotta grab my paper cutter. And let's see. I want to cut my floor. Let's see, how much of a floor? Do a little more. Do like this. That's good. So we're gonna go ahead and do like this. So it'll be like a nice little floor. Which I could probably do less. Hold on. Because I forgot that we want the mirror to look realistic. Let's see, so we're gonna do that's better. All right, so let's go ahead. We'll ink blend this. And let's grab, I have some ground espresso ink. Oh, that doesn't want to come off. That's okay. And kind of blend the bottom edge. Get it nice and dark. Like this. All right. Perfect. And then I'm going to put that away. Let's do a quick wipe. And dry. And I'm going to grab some gray paper and some black soot ink. And we're just going to kind of go in and start to ink blend those edges. Make it nice and dark. You could also stencil over this or use a pattern paper to get like a nice wall effect going. I think I might do a little bit of splattering. Let's see. All right, so let's do a little bit of that. Let's cover up all my images. Oh, you know what? Let's do a little bit of that. And this will give me some nice bleach marks. Actually, it's just kind of wet the paper a little bit. That's okay. It gives a little bit of a grungy look, which is what I'm going for. some. Set this off to the side, clean my brush a little bit. Check the comments in a second. I love adding, oh my goodness, adding splatter because it just adds like an extra element of detail to your project, and I really think it amps it up a little bit. Have a good night, Bo. Thanks so much for stopping by. And Nora, I'm so glad you're here. Thanks for stopping by as well. Have you switched to blending brushes? Leanne, no. I go back and forth. I really do, because I'm about to pull in a second. I've got a blending tool. It just kind of depends on what I'm going for. I really do prefer these, but for whatever reason today, I was using blending brushes at my desk, and I'm like, oh, let me grab those. But no, I'm still mostly using these. So, all right, let's see. Let's do a little bit of sparkle. All right, perfect. So I'm gonna put that off to the side just to dry a little bit. And let's pull in this mirror frame, and we're gonna work on that. So I wanted to keep the mirror frame. I wanna make it kind of like gold, but I didn't wanna use gold paper. So I'm using some Rusty Hinge Oxide ink. And I made this frame from like, it's not craft paper, but it's like a biscuit color. I don't know. Biscuit, where did I come up with that? Oh my God, you know where I came up with biscuit? I was just at Lowe's the other day with my mom, and they're redoing a bathroom, and she was looking at toilets, and she wanted to get a white toilet, and the color of the beige toilet was biscuit. So clearly I'm calling this paper the color of a Kohler toilet. Oh gosh. But I mean, it is that, you know? Yeah, I just didn't want to go metallic. I wanted it to be a matte finish. I actually love that the die cuts I used created a little bit of an indentation on this, because it makes it look like a mirror that's got some character. It's just too thin of a shape to perfectly ink blend around. That's okay. That is a-okay. All right, so let's go ahead. Let me get my, do I got tweezers? I do have tweezers. So we're gonna go in and we're gonna do a very light amount of glue. And now I created this frame. I have a set of nested oval dies. I recommend investing at some point during your crafting journey in some just shape dies that have a nesting feature, which means you get a lot of different sizes and they all fit inside of each other. All right, so we're just gonna kind of push this into place. I might have to trim my edge a little bit, and that's a-okay. I was prepared for that. I thought my image looked a little off-centered. So I'm like, you know what? I can fix that, but all right, there we go. Actually, that looks pretty good. All right, so, ooh, y'all, this is gonna be pretty. This is gonna be pretty. Go in, we're gonna adhere these layers together, just like this. All right, and then it's gonna be, she's gonna be kind of up on the wall. She's gonna be kind of off to the side. Oh, this is gonna be so pretty. Okay, we're getting there. Really, all I have to do is the sentiment at this point, and then just layer everything together. So why don't we work on that? Let's check comments. What sparkle are you using? Mine gives oil stains on my paper. This is Sparkle Silk by Spellbinders. I've used it for years and I've had no complaints with it. Kind of shaped like a toilet. It is, it's the oval opening. Christian, you get it. You get it. Oh my goodness. Biscuit. What kind of glue tool? This is the Misty Precision Glue Press. I love it. It has made my crafting life so easy. I'm not really into tools. I'm just like, I like these. Like we were talking, Leanne was asking me about my blending brushes, and I was like, I've kind of gone back to the foam blenders. I use these most often. I'm really kind of traditional with my tools, but when I bring things into my crafting space that are a new thing and they stick, that means I really like them. I typically don't like to try out a lot of like the really, really new stuff unless I think it's really going to make an impact. This glue gun, this precision glue tool has made a big sort of easement when I'm crafting, so I really, really like it. Ovals are not my friends. I can never get them straight. Leanne, I understand that. I struggled with that today myself. All right, let's go in. We're gonna make a sentiment. I want my sentiment to be red because there's some red in this image, or this card, but not a lot of it, so I thought it would play off of that a little bit. And I want my sentiment. I was gonna do how do you like them apples, but then I didn't realize there's this sentiment that says, have you looked in the mirror lately? And I'm like, yeah, it's gonna be that one today. It's gonna be the mirror sentiment today, and that's A-okay. So we're gonna go in, we're gonna get it all situated. I'm using my mini Misty just because it's a small little sentiment. I'm gonna pick it up with my Misty door. I'm going to use my anti-static embossing tool. I always like to just make sure everything is good to go. And then I've got my Kindred Stamps embossing ink. So we'll go ahead, put that, stamp it down. I usually do it 2 or 3 times, depends on what the coverage looks like. This looks pretty good. But I gotta work fast because I don't want this to dry. So let's go in and let's see what I got. Great. That's pretty good. It's good coverage. All right, let's heat set this. Sorry in advance for the noise. All right, sentiment is all nice and set. We can clean this up just a little bit. Just with some water. I always like to put my sentiments away as I'm using them, or all my images really, just so I don't lose anything. It happens, but I try to prevent it from happening. All right. So let's see. Because I used an anti-static powder, I do want to use my microfiber cloth to go ahead and clean it off. And we are going to fussy cut out the sentiment as well. I do that because I think it adds a nice sort of crispness to the sentiment. Sometimes I do deep cuts in between the words, sometimes I don't. Today I don't think I'm going to. But just the way that I would an image, going around the letters of a sentiment and just sort of fussy cut around them. And it really allows the sentiment to pop nicely. I do it often. I enjoy doing it. I love that some companies with sentiments recently have been coming up with coordinating guides that include the sentiments. But not a requirement. Let's see. Ooh. A little bit of a hard edge right here. We'll just trim around it. Perfect. And then I did want to kind of add a little bit of shading to it. So I'm going to grab my black blending brush, and it's got some of that residual black soot ink. And I'm just going to go in on the bottom and just sort of add in some distress. Just like that. And then it did darken up some of my white sentiment. So I'm just gonna go in and buff it off. It cleans off nicely, just like that. And it just adds a nice sort of depth to the sentiment. So my thought is, I'm gonna do my sentiment like up here. I'm really excited for how this is gonna turn out. So, okay, let's see. Let's get my layers ready first. So I'm gonna go in with my stitched paper. This is for, I cut it with the Card Basics die cutting set. This is the Day in the Park paper pack, is where this pattern comes from. I'm gonna center it really nicely on here. Well, nicely, I mean, I hope nicely. Oh, I thought I had big old blocks, and I guess I don't. So I'm gonna have to go in. Fix this. It's okay, we're making progress. All right, and then, yeah, I'm gonna have to grab one of my blocks, that's okay. I'm gonna go in, I wanna put it on an A2 sized piece of paper that's just black, just to work on my layering. And then we're just gonna kind of, we're gonna do this side. Just kind of get some good layers going. All right, so we're good there. And now we can put our scene in the center of this. Right here. All right, let me grab, I have an oversized acrylic block that I like to use, and I don't know why it's all not on my desk. I'm missing one. Oh, I know where it went. All right, I like to just kind of use it. It's bigger than A2 size, so I can put it directly over my full panel and just press down. And this applies a nice even pressure. Hello, Tessa. Glad you stopped by. Thanks for being here. And Christian, thank you so much. Before you put your white card base, don't forget to wipe up the black soot. Oh. Ah, so my card base doesn't turn white. Thank you. Okay, we're gonna do that. How about we do that right now? So let's go, because Christian was so kind to remind me so I don't end up staining my card base, because I've done that a handful of times. So let's clean it up. All right, and let's see. I'm gonna do the card base last. Let's see, I think I'm gonna adhere my mirror image directly onto it. No foam tape, no nothing. And remember, I will give you guys the colors I used for this mirror when I publish my blog post. All right, we're gonna kind of let it off hang just a little bit. And just like that. And then let's grab some foam tape. And we're gonna go in. I just had a panic attack inside my head because I thought that I accidentally cut my image up. I think that's good. All right. Don't need to overdo the foam tape for her. And maybe one extra piece. Do right here. You know, my timer says that this should be around the 1 hour mark right now. I think this is pretty good for progress. I mean, I know I had to color up part of this in advance, but this is pretty good. I like the way this card is turning out, and I don't think it's taking an overwhelming amount of time to create, which is always good, especially for a Facebook Live. All right, so we've got our little witch down there. Let's do our sentiment. Let's see. All right. Put our sentiment just sort of right up here. Make sure it looks decent. I do like how that looks. Okay. And then I wanted to add a couple sequins, but I'm gonna put on my card base first. So let's see. It's just an A2 size card base. So it's right now 4 1/4 by 5 1/2. What it was is 8 1/2 by 5 1/2 scored on the long side in half. All right, let's add some sequins. I've got this sequin mix that was on my desk from another project that I was working on. So let me grab. It's just some like dark red colors, and I think it's gonna work really nicely with this. Let's see. Let's see what we got. It's not. That's okay. But I don't want that over there. Let's see, we got some black and some dark red. All right, let's use my picking tool. Try not to use too much glue. All right. Y'all, I think we're there. Oh, you guys are all so sweet. Thank you. All right, so let's just kind of go over what we did to put this card together. Oh, let me make it go so far off camera. All right, so we used images from the I'm Wishing stamp set, but also, like I said, you can find these images, both of them in the Villainous stamp set. So we went ahead, I colored this image up of the younger villain in advance. I colored up the older villain live with y'all tonight. Then we used some card basic dies. That's where we die cut the mirror paper that's included in the Day in the Park paper pack. I used the large rectangle die for that. And then I used the stitch square die for our background. We did a little bit of ink blending. I heat embossed our sentiment of Have You Looked in the Mirror Lately with the Snowfall embossing powder. And then we did some layering with the paper as well, using some scraps from the Gothic Vibes paper pack in the background as well. I said as well twice. I apologize. My mind is on crafting overload today, and that is a-okay. So here you go. We have our projects all completed. I love the sort of effect that this card has, where it's like this older villain is looking at herself in the mirror, and she's the younger villain. And I just think they're super cool. I love these two. I think they're just fantastic images and characters and all the things. I love how they color up too. I just think that the way that they're drawn, they're really easy to color up and they look really pretty when done so. So thank you all so much for being here tonight. I will be certain to get this uploaded to my blog and my YouTube channel so y'all can catch the replay. Probably by tomorrow. It's not going to happen tonight. I like to photograph my cards in the daylight, and the daylight's gone. So I will get that situated tomorrow. If you have any questions, always feel free to reach out, comment in the group, comment on my video or Facebook Live, whatever I can do to help, just let me know. And then thank you all so much for being here tonight. Let's go through. Thank you to Patsy, and thank you Leanne, and thank you Christian, thank you Karen, thank you Flower, thank you Kristen, thank you Maricruz. Oh, you guys are all so wonderful. Thank you Kristen, thank you Nora, thank you Tessa for stopping by, everyone who could make it tonight. I'm glad that you guys were able to stop by. Thank you Bo, I know he had to leave to go to dinner, but I appreciate you all. This is my last live for the month of March. I will of course be back next month with more. Maybe we'll do something more villainous next month too. So stick around for that, and then have a wonderful rest of your night, everyone. Goodbye.